Well, lest you think of Tom Hanks only as an image of a funny man. Now, nothing in common. I'm not to disparage the comedy in this, but I guess I wanted to concentrate first, Tom, on the seriousness of this picture. There are some scenes where it's not funny anymore at all, and I'm curious if initially this didn't bother you a little bit. Like, what am I getting into here?
Oh, no, not at all. As a matter of fact, initially that was the element of risk that I was most excited about as far as making the movie goes. I don't think you can make... I've made like 6 movies, all right, before I made this one, or it was somewhere in there. I made a lot of movies before this. And the things I learned about myself both as a human being and as an actor during the course of those 6 movies, I think was substantial. To have a piece come across your lap that has the potential that Nothing in Common had, certainly in the early stages, is almost a matter of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of timing. To have the opportunity to do a role that is going to be, in a lot of ways, the sum total of everything that you've learned and everything you've figured out about yourself, to go into it.
Well, you talked about it being a risk. In what sense, then, was it a risk?
I think you walk a very, very fine line when you try to, I guess, hold the mirror up to nature in a realistic way. There are no gimmicks surrounding this movie. There's no houses falling down. There's nothing to hang the action on this film, except the emotions and the situations that people are going through. We walk and we talk. That's the way everything is communicated in this movie.
Yeah, and we have to believe that you don't get along with your father, and yet you want to. Now, that's a pretty tough thing.
That's a hard thing to do, but this is an aspect of the American family right now. We have an idea of it being father knows best and leave it to Beaver, and that just is not always the case. Mm-hmm. I remember doing Our Town and hearing the line where Mr. Gibbs says, you know, the relationship between a father and son is the damnedest thing in the world, and that's exactly the case. We got to play around with, I think, a very volatile and a very delicate kind of point of view between fathers and sons, between, you know, parents and their children.
And would I be getting too personal if I wondered how much of that in your own life, your own father-son relationship, you were able to...
Well, there's not an actor in the world that isn't going to be bringing those things along with it, and there were certainly similarities as well. My parents were divorced when I was very young. I'm divorced myself. I have kids. My parents both almost succumbed to very serious illnesses. You can't go through that and not bring that to a movie like this. At the same time, this is not verbatim what happened to me. There's a lot of differences at the same time. I like my folks. I've always enjoyed being with them, but it gave me, I think, a massive amount of head start as far as doing it. But at the same time, also raised the stakes, because I knew what it was like going through that, and I think everybody else has a hint of that, and we had to make sure we were going to be honest with the emotions.
Yeah, and at the same time, we see many situations where it's difficult to get the kid out of the nest. Here, it's difficult to get the parents from returning to the nest that they see. Now, that's kind of a switch, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a bit of a unique twist, something that really hasn't been totally dealt with before. The world is a much complex place, and for people who have stayed inside just the most basic security of any relationship, even though it's a bad relationship for 34 years, are going to find that it's not like they thought it was going to be out there, and especially for the generation that survived the Depression and then won the war and then struggled through all those years afterwards.
Yeah, and speaking of relationships, yours with the SCTV people that came in to work with the ad agency sequences takes us to another extreme in the film, where it appears to be wild and crazy on and off the set.
Well, it wasn't that crazy off the set, actually. They're incredibly talented and gifted people, and we were specifically going for a type of atmosphere that had to be created from just the barest blueprint of a script. We made up a bunch of junk in order to throw it in at the office.
Close enough to be convincing.
Well, let's hope so, because this was another very specific thing that we were trying to do. We were dealing with advertising that is a mysterious and yet hugely powerful industry. And we wanted to have that counterpoint between this atmosphere that is at the office, which is a fun place to work, but is filled with competitive and passionate people.
Including you, and you say at one point, I'm not in this because I want to be a painter or a playwright. Yeah. I'm in this because I like advertising.
Yeah, yeah. He's an extremely goal-oriented guy, and that says something about David Basner. If he likes doing this and doesn't want to do anything else, he has a passion for this that is all-encompassing.
You have to make that convincing, and yet we have not to hate you, though. We don't want to see you as a crass Madison Avenue type.
No. I think that would have been unreal. He is crass, but but he's wonderfully crass. I guess that's the way to put it.
Tom, let's pursue that a bit. In that, if you were a salesman or did have a campaign to mount for a product, what would you be good at selling? You now.
Me?
Yeah. Can you sell?
I think I could. I can't. I don't know. I can't really lie that well. I can't say, you know, those pants take 30 years off you. They honestly do. There's something about the fit, the cut of those pants. Your waist is what? It's a 29 waist, I'm guessing. You must do like 120 sit-ups a day, right? Before.
Yeah, you got the routine.
You see,
real well.
I mean, I could fake it as much, but I would have to like really gear up in order to fake it.
I talked to Dustin Hoffman once on Death of a Salesman, and he sure compared the acting profession to the sales profession.
Sure, yeah.
You're out there selling yourself on a, what is it?
I think
shoelace and a smile.
You're out there pretending, I think, and that you're getting up in the morning and one individual, and as soon as you're in that work situation, you're somebody totally else, and that's certainly what I do.
Tom Hanks, in conclusion, how many times a day do people ask you about Splash 2?
About once. See, I've already read that I'm doing Splash 2. I've read that we filmed it already. So I hope I had a good time, and I don't know who I worked with, but it was a wonderful experience.
Is that being a salesperson or not? I didn't ask you about
no.
Splash 2, but you talked about it anyway.
I have. No one has said boo to me about doing Splash 2. I haven't read anything. All I do is hear that we're doing it all the time. I have no knowledge of what the progress is like on that.
We'll just have to wait and see.
I guess so, yeah.
Tom Hanks, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And he's in Nothing in Common, and I'm John Tibbetts for KCTV5 from Chicago.